So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are connected with our experts of Italian Association of Celiac Disease from Friuli Venezia Giulia. This is the second module of training trainers of TESTEAT. In this edition, we collaborate with Civiform to involve the local experts from Friuli Venezia Giulia and all the associated entities which are connected. We have people from different regions of Italy and from two different Croatian regions. So if you want to ask for the floor and speak, please raise your hand so that there are no interferences. So please mute yourselves. To view the speaker, we recommend that you click on view mode speaker mode. If you want to say hi now, otherwise I will start with the presentation of our experts, giving the floor to Jessica Vidusso, the regional coordinator of the Italian Celiac Association. Thank you. I would like to welcome you to this training. My job is to introduce the two meetings we will have today. Today's meeting will be more theoretical with Dr. Ariella Gliozzo, a psychologist, and tomorrow's will be hands-on with our chef trainer. So we decided to have two different professions, one psychologist and one chef. Even if they are on the extremes, they have professionals with essential skills for the catering industry, in particular for catering to special customers. We often train professionals in the restaurant sector through the national program of outside eating aimed at mapping and training the gluten-free restaurants. But we're also used to talk to future professionals through a national project called Scuola Nazionale di Celiachia, targeting schools in order to help students tackle the challenges of a special customer. Usually we have the whole team of professionals talking about all the topics with physicians, psychologists, chefs, food scientists, and more. Today we only have two professionals but we wanted to focus on the main target when talking to trainers like you. Giving you tools to prepare training for your students to allow them to go hand in hand with a new market that focuses on special customers. In these two meetings, we would like you to change your perspective. If you think about it, to date, giving a special service meant preparing specific preparations, while now it means preparing food for everyone. thus streamlining and simplifying the management while increasing the number of users in order to adapt to cultural change. But to do this, we need special skills. And as we will see today, what is often necessary is not just technical skills. Since the sector evolves and the requirements keep evolving, we don't want these lessons to be comprehensive, but they only want to be hints for continuous and dynamic reflection, which will allow you and indirectly your students to adapt with the market. We would like these to be hints to guide your students to develop a mindset to tackle all the challenges they will have in the future. Being customer oriented will allow the future professionals to improve the service already existing in the territory where they work in, increasing the well-being of the population and developing local tourism. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Scuola Centrale Formazione and Civiform for the opportunity and all the information you will receive today and tomorrow hopefully will be interesting, precious, and if you need to learn more, to elaborate, I will remain at your disposal. In the meantime, I give the floor to Dr. Ariella Gliozzo. Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a psychologist. In my professional career, I worked on employment, so labor and psychologist. So I worked on training, on employment, focusing on the needs of reconversion and relocation of workers. After being diagnosed as a celiac, I decided to combine my personal experiences with my professional training. So for many years, I've been working with the association, both on training and to train people and staff in restaurants, pizza places. So let me share a screen to show you how I have organized the work. Okay, it is very clear. Okay, I will continue. Let's start from the title. When the special customer becomes a mainstream customer, this vision implies a number of implications cascading on the management of the restaurant and the relationship with the customer. So I would like to start from an overview of the changes in the modern society because they have impacts on the restaurant sector as well. And the restaurant sector suffers from these effects and needs to change the organizational plan and the interface with the customers. We will touch upon the peculiarities of special customer and the role of training in hotel schools. At any time during the talk, you can stop me if something is not clear and ask questions. And there will be moments where when I will ask you to take the floor and elaborate on what I'm saying. Because when you do training, it is important to mix and put together what the trainer says with what the trainee already knows. And sometimes the trainee doesn't know, isn't aware of knowing this. And so maybe you realize that you already know certain things, but maybe you don't use them and are not aware of them. So for me, it is extremely important that you also take the floor here. So let's see the changes in today's society. There are some sectors which heavily influence the changes we are experiencing. One is technology, one is economy, then there's culture and environment. So what are these sectors generating in our society? Well, let's start from digitalization, which is deeply changing our communication. So much so that now we are talking together from completely different places, seeing each other on screen, which wasn't thinkable until a few years ago. Then another factor that influences the current world is the interconnection of all global economies. What is happening in the US is causing problems at a world level. So there's no more European, Italian, American economy. And when something happens somewhere, it affects everywhere. Then there's another important point, which is included in your Interreg project. There is sustainability, meaning that there's a huge concern for the environment, for all the changes that the environment is suffering because of pollution and climate change, so much so that it leads to changes in all the sectors to be less detrimental to the environment. Then in this period, there's also another point of concern that is the well-being of people. People are concerned for their well-being, and even factories are concerned for the health and the well-being of their workers to relieve them from stress. So interest in health, so mental health and physical health. Then there is education and training, that is another field that is affected by technology, because in many schools the students receive tablets to follow the lesson. And then there are great changes in our culture due to the easy way in which people can move across the world. And these cultural changes are also due to migratory flows caused by war and famine. So our society is changing. We want to see the effects of these changes on the restaurant sector, which is changing heavily to try to adapt to the special needs of consumers. And so we need to meet these needs and see them not something as something heavy or burdensome, but as a pretext to innovate and to grow, to give better services. Let's see the general trends which had effects, which had consequences in the food sector, in this restaurant sector. All okay? Shall I continue? Yes. As we saw, communication was revolutionized by digitalization, and digitalization entered the restaurant or the food industry. So you can book online, you can be on Facebook. People see the menu on Facebook, they see the reviews, there's the possibility to book on the app with digital menus, etc. Sustainability is also part of the restaurant sector. So ingredients, proximity ingredients, organic, local ingredients, no waste. We have chefs like Mrs. Klugman that has her vegetable garden near the restaurant that she uses, and many other restaurant owners and chefs use the products that the produce that they grow. Health and wellness. So you can offer dishes with less sauces. Probably I'm not clearly a restaurant owner or a chef, but I remember that many years ago when I was attending hotel management, when I was going to hotel management schools, they made all these rules. They were very heavy, and I suppose that today the cooking has become lighter with low calories, or a lot of free dishes, gluten-free, lactose-free, allergen-free. And then there's a demand for a special cuisine, ethnic cuisine, fusion cuisine. And the people look for experiences, not just the food, but an experience, because a lot of ads offer experiences, a car experience, a computer experience. What does the experience do? It involves mind, body, and emotions. So the person in total. And then there's the request for customizable options in the menu. So the children menu, the fast food menu, so customization. And then we move to the special customers and mainstream customers. That means welcoming diversity as a stimulus to do something different. Food experiences. So in this period, the customers appreciate the special event, cooking courses, meeting with chefs in many restaurants. The kitchen is visible, open with mirrors. So there's this wish to create a relationship with. And then, last but not least, we have staff training and well-being. If the staff is trained, there will be a team that will improve the customer experience. A satisfied team and crew will create a good mood with customers as well. So these are the industry trends. So what do they imply? They imply investment to change three levels: the organizational plan, the management plan, and the interface with the customer. So three levels on which you have to take action in order to adapt to the global changes. We will observe these changes, especially in relation to special customers, that is the topic of this module. So who are our special customers? Special customers are people, for example, who are celiac, who are allergic, who are intolerant, and people who have metabolic diseases. So these people are people who have special food requirements linked to their health. Then there are people who have special requirements for other reasons. For example, for religious dietary prescriptions, for example, the Muslims and the Jews, we saw the mobility present in this period. So you can find people asking for special food based on their religion. Then there are other changes depending on cultural diversity. Then there are children, for example, who reject some food stuff and they only eat pasta with ragu. They are also special customers. And then there are people requesting special food depending on their ethical changes, such as vegans and vegetarians. So these special customers of ours have some special characteristics which differentiate them. Maybe not totally, because we also find customers who are not special and that have special requirements. There are people asking for special things who are not our special customers. So there are special requirements, some depending on health problems. In these cases, we need to pay a lot of attention to avoid harming people's health. Then there are other customers who make, as I said, ethical religious choices, but these choices need to be met out of respect for the customer. So we have on one hand health issues and then personal issues. Both matter and are respectful. These customers, when coming to the restaurant, have specific expectations because it's a matter of health and of life vision, because vegans and vegetarians have a special view of their life. They don't deviate from, they never make exception from. So they expect the food they're served to be customized. But let's not forget one thing, that still they represent an economic value, okay? And the restaurants are companies which need to make profit, right? So my question is, can they afford to discard special customers in this moment where the supply is huge, because you see restaurants everywhere right now? So special customers represent an economic value. So they are a potential for expenditure, and if they are well treated, they become loyal because they feel at ease at a special restaurant. On the other hand, high expectations can create stress and pressure on the restaurant staff, because you cannot afford to make mistakes. So this creates great attention and requires coordination, because between room and kitchen, which can lead to stress and pressure. Okay, all clear? If you have questions, feel free to ask them. You can ask in English, and they can be translated into Italian simultaneously. You can speak freely or write in the chat box. Yeah, I don't want to be the only one talking. I like to have interaction and exchanges, otherwise it will be a bit one-sided. Okay, now we split into breakout rooms. Let me explain what we are about to do. So what I want from you is to hear your experience. I want you to think about the experience you are living in your environments at work. So this current trend to turn a special customer into a mainstream customer, for you, is it a weight or a resource? So I will ask you to reflect on it, talking to your colleagues. So the current technology allows you to split you into breakout rooms. And in your room, you will consider the question I asked you. Is it a constraint or a resource? You can talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll be back together, and then one or two people will present your reflections. To help you reflect, maybe take note, because I have prepared this slide that you won't see anymore when you are in the breakout rooms. I put some variables that can help you reflect on whether the special customer who becomes a mainstream customer represents a constraint or an asset. So the first variable is changing needs. The needs of people are changing. Does this help us or not? Until 30 years ago, celiac people Well, very few. Now diagnoses are increasing a lot, so we are faced with an increasing number of celiac people. So needs are changing. Market opportunities, are these people an opportunity? And are we giving new opportunities to the customers? So by offering new opportunities to the customer, we can make them loyal, and it can be an economic value. If I offer opportunities to the customer, I create a loyalty. But we need to assess the impact on the company and on the person. So we have said that the expectations are high and they can cause stress and pressure. So we should put these variables on to weight and see which way do they tilt, a constraint or a resource, an asset. So this is what I'm asking you to think about, to discuss amongst yourselves, and then we will be back together in plenary. Is everything clear? Is the task clear? Do you have doubts or questions? We will give you 10 minutes to do this team work. I split into 2 breakout rooms by native, by mother tongue, so that there are no barriers. So, but still, from Croatia, we have participants from different Croatian regions, and the same goes different regions from Italy. So I would like to add one thing before you start the breakout rooms. So you will have 10 minutes. There will be a countdown in the last 2 minutes that tells you that you have to draw your conclusions. And then when we get back in the preliminary session, we will ask you to find a spokesperson who can summarize what has been said during your during your discussion. If you want to speak Italian when you have to report what you said, okay, it's welcome. If you want to speak in English, the interpreter can translate into Italian what you say in English. The same goes for English. If you want to listen to English, you can go on interpretation and click on English. Do you have doubts or questions? So when you are in the breakout rooms, we won't be involved. We won't listen. Feel free to talk and discuss and to come back with your conclusions. So in the meantime, I give the floor back to Dr. Gliozzo. My suggestion is that in the group you already find a person who checks the time. Otherwise, it will be over too soon. Secondly, ask 1 or 2 people to write down what you're saying, because otherwise you won't remember. So is it 10 minutes strict, or can we make it 12? Yes, what do you say? A bit more than 10. There are very few people who have their videos on. Okay, 12 is good. Yes, 12 is better than 10. All right. Okay, enjoy. So the breakout room will close automatically after 12 minutes, and you will all come back to the plenary session. We won't have to run after you, okay? Thank you. Let's start. If you have any doubts, this is the very last moment before we split. Have you taken a picture of the guidelines for the questions so that you have them before your eyes when you speak? Welcome back. Is there a question? No, there's a general question. Can you turn on your video so we can also see while you speak? Because we have a general question to ask you. If you can raise your hands if you are cooks. Yeah, we see a hand there. Yes, because I cannot put the camera in the right position. Okay, so let's use reactions. Use a heart if you teach a bar. Thumbs up if you're cooking teachers. So I see some raised hands. Is there anyone who teaches different subjects? So if you teach other subjects, you can use the applause as a symbol in your reaction. So most people here teach cooking. We also have science and nutrition and also pastry chefs. Now we have the spokespersons. Who are the spokespersons for the two groups? For the Italian group, I am Laura Martinuzzo. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes, very well. We talked about the questions. And it depends on the type of activity that you do. If you are working in a restaurant or working in catering at an event, because and these are two different things, because a restaurant has some preparations where they can separate the food, so you can prepare certain preparations before the others, and you can manage gluten. After you have sanitized, sterilized the laboratory for a couple of days, this is something that the restaurant can prepare. You have to keep everything separate in any case, because when you prepare and when you separate them, you don't get in touch with the other food stuff. In event catering, things are different because often you don't have an exchange with the customer who tells us in advance that some people are celiac. Excuse me, Laura. So the question was, is the special customer a constraint or an asset? If you have a restaurant, it is a resource and asset. In the catering event, it becomes constrained because you're not prepared. So this was the summary answer. And as for the stress from our activity, when you have a special customer coming um, and surprise, and you're surprised, you're not prepared, you cannot deal with that. It's harder. So you think it's a constraint if for caterers, whereas for a restaurant it can be an asset and you can equip yourself. Yes, because in catering you don't have a feedback. You cannot know if what you've done has gone well. This to a restaurant has more opportunity to get the message in advance. Does anyone do catering here at events? Work? Does anyone work in catering here? Yes, when you order catering, you should say if one of your guests has special needs. Yeah, usually it happens when the customer places the order. The person who takes the order also asks, but it doesn't always happen because when I was at an event, I discovered that some people were celiac. That's bad because you don't have the kitchen behind you. If you know it in advance, you can equip yourself and organize. I have a question for the colleagues who had prepared a cake for 600 people. Had you asked in advance if someone was celiac? So it would have been a challenge in that case, right? When these things happen, it's true. The ratio should be special to mainstream, but they don't show that special requirements don't show up uh, when you have uh, events for many people. But with cakes, it's easier to prepare. I wanted to focus on the high expectations. So if I make a cake for celiac people, maybe it's not a pie, but it's another type of cake. But customers have very high expectations now because we always try to elevate the product, gluten-free, lactose-free, normalize it, and the expectations of customers become very, very high. This, of course, causes stress. Clearly, we need to adjust. Earlier in the group with Laura and the others, we were also talking about our experience. But there are some false special customers. So when they have the main courses, they have no problems, but they have a lot of problems. But when they get to dessert, everything goes. Yeah, this is also a nuisance for people who have to prepare gluten-free food, prepare the kitchen, and then the customer asks for a normal tiramisu because panna cotta is not much appreciated, and so the staff um, gets annoyed, and it's normal. And then later we will see how to solve these situations, how to address these situations. I will offer you some advice. Mm. From the creation group, do you want to tell us something? I know that the group was less numerous and that the interaction was more limited, but if you have a comment, also in relation to what the colleagues from the Italian group said, please go ahead and comment. You can choose whether you want to speak English or Italian. We don't have Croatian, I'm afraid. May I? From the Croatian group, it was just me. I didn't have the opportunity to discuss. I am from a bar room. I have less problems because with beverages we can. You have, yeah, it's less risky. The drinks are come already prepared for celiac people, gluten free. So we're talking about bar management. So we're talking about aperitif, for example, when you go to the bar, uh, when you get ask for an aperitif, you get snacks. What do you do with snacks? No, we don't give snacks. From Romania, I often go to Trieste, and there are a lot of snacks, finger food. Okay, nothing. Nema problema. No, nema problema. Okay. What about mixology, all those preparations? And bar food, so sandwiches, tramezzini. I don't know what you prepare, but often you don't think about alternatives for special customers. We can consider all the bars here. One enters and you only have the classic toast or the pizza. And then there's also coffee at the bar that could be risky. But to go with an aperitif for a celiac customer, if you cannot give the piece of toast, you can have alternatives. Yes, olives or something fresher. Yes, cheese or but in many places they don't make any effort maybe to give you peanuts or something, and they make you pay for the aperitif as much as the others. So this should be managed better. Do you agree with me that it should be managed? Because I'm not happy when I'm a customer, when they give me nothing at all because I'm a celiac and I want to have nibbles with my aperitif. Also beer for the bar sector. Does it contain gluten? Because of barley. Yes, it contains gluten, but there are many gluten-free beers. I don't know if all the bars have it. What we see in Friuli is that the combo pizza beer is always present, but also in pizza places where you have gluten-free pizza, you never have the gluten-free beer. Okay, you gave me the pizza, but I have to drink it with water or wine. It's a new trend. Ariella, can I say something? Something that said Morino earlier on the customer expectations, and I want to stress this because it's true, and you see it in general in the market. As for celiac disease in general, the diagnosis happens to uh, adult people. They're used to eating certain things, and when they're diagnosed, they expect to find them the same. So we're talking about our case, the brand Merino Bianco, that is very famous. And you create this expectation. I am diagnosed. I like the biscuits of Mulino Bianco, and I expect Mulino Bianco to produce gluten-free Galletti cooked biscuits with the same flavor, so that they trigger a number of memories and so on and so forth that that are linked to my world before the diagnosis. So it's a monitored trend as well. Thank you. Do you have more questions or comments? Otherwise, we can continue. So let's continue. Organizational transition. So we said that we need to act on the different levels. So the organizational transition asks us to identify all the procedures that can make sure that I prepare the appropriate meals for different types of special customers in addition to all the other usual procedures. This is something that I try to stress when I train the young students, because in the chain of trainers to students, I'm the last. And when I get there, the students have the feeling that treating celiac disease is like treating a nuclear bomb. So something that is really complicated and challenging, but you'd rather not deal with. What I try to stress is that in the kitchen everything is governed by procedures, because otherwise the local health company, health unit would close the kitchen because you need to monitor mayonnaise, whipped cream stocks. So the procedure should be clear and precise. So you need to adopt new procedures, different procedures, and procedures help us and save us because they're standardized. They identify how we should behave. When I was diagnosed celiac, I was already grown up. And in my small kitchen, I had to adopt a number of procedures. What I remember, for example, is do you remember when you eat and there's a crumb, a bread crumb on the table? Sometimes you pick it up and you put it in your mouth. If the person with me left crumbs, I had to be super careful not to do that act that was automatic for me. So I had to change my procedures in my little kitchen. When you adopt a number of procedures, then things take their life of their own. So procedures in these areas. First of all, we need to have the collaboration of experts. First, the food technologist who tells us how to manage the kitchen, the stock, etc. You work in hotel management schools, you know it very, very well. And then there is the problem of suppliers and ingredients. And here I ask for Jessica's help, meaning that the finished product, if can the finished product, so sometimes, sorry, the finished product can have the writing gluten-free, but the supplier may not know that all the ingredients of that food are really gluten-free. Does it happen, Jessica? What should you do in these cases? Can you help me? I need to ask for a guarantee. So starting from raw materials, which could not be adequate, I need to assess this entire supply chain. So we shouldn't take for granted anything. Maybe the final product contains gluten, even if the supplier says that it's gluten-free. Then staff training, which is the driver for these problems. You have to change the menu. If a menu includes all allergens, our lives goes easier. And then marketing. Marketing is extremely important because the moment when I'm a restaurant, I'm a pizza place, and I manage correctly all the procedures that allow me to give meals, give free of something, so gluten free or something else. I can do an effective marketing. Today, we see that many restaurants offer gluten-free food. You go in, you say, I'm a celiac, and you know what they answer? That there's contamination. Everything is contaminated. So what are we, which game are we playing here? Or ice cream, it says gluten-free ice cream, yes, and they say, but it's contaminated. So the marketing is wrong because it disorients the customer. So the organizational transition requires a change of perspective. So you need to start from diversity, not to offer exclusive dishes for a few customers, but use the needs of those few to prepare inclusive meals. This type of issue of inclusivity is what we look at in several sectors. So inclusiveness it doesn't have anything to with victimization, but it is something that is different and turn it into something valuable. This is a general issue. because this is a cooking lesson. When it's good for everyone. When something is good, it is good and valid for everyone. In fact, in Trieste, there's a pastry shop, and I'm not advertising it. There's a pastry shop for celiac people that is becoming popular for everyone, mainstream customers as well. Why? Because it makes uh, treats, sandwiches, tramezzini that are excellent for everyone, making great deals. So what can generate the change of perspective? On one hand, it can generate simplification. For example, I can fry fish for everyone with rice flour. So I simplify, but simultaneously, this simplification requires knowledge, technical skills, and organization. Because if I fry the fish in the normal fryer where I fry the cutlet, this doesn't work. So yes, I simplify, but I need to control everything else. So thorough knowledge, excellent technical skills, excellent organization of my kitchen. So many restaurants offering food for special customers are going towards simplification, creating more and more food that fits more categories of people. Let's see the time. Shall we take a break? What do you say, Lorena? Is it time for a break? Yes. There was a raised hand. I wanted to ask if it was raised from earlier or if it was a question. Federico, you had your raised. No, it was from earlier. No, it was when we did ask the question. We did ask the question. Yes, it was left raised. So let's take a 10-minute break. So you can stretch your legs. I can leave the connection on, and in 10 minutes at 33 past 3 p.m. we'll restart. Responsibility that lead to the supply of the final service to the various special customers, starting from the moment we record the order to the various steps. So starting from when you receive the order and the room to the transfer to the kitchen staff, to the preparation of the dish, to the eating of the dish. So you have to list all the passages so that you know a priori which moments could be moments of problematic moments, so that we are ready to identify them. So we can have useful tools, for example, the manual with clear indications, the tools for recording orders, with the clear request from the customer, because when you handwrite the orders, maybe you may forget to tell the cooking staff that the person is a celiac. Even if I ask for a grilled steak, you have to remind the cooking staff that the person is a celiac. Then communication that is competent and detailed with the customer. You cannot ask me how much, what's the extent of my celiac disease, and it's not a joke. I heard this question often, and that is not a competent communication. So the communication, room kitchen communication need to be very clear and precise, and we can adopt a number of procedures that sustain staff and reassure the customer. Because if I get a gluten-free pizza in a dish that has a different color from the dishes of the other customers who don't have this problem, this reassures me, because I say, okay, the chain is valid. This helps everyone, the room staff, the kitchen staff, and the customer. It's also important to receive feedback from customers in order maybe to make changes if needed. And this is the management transition. So let's talk about liaison with customers, even if there are few people who are from the waiting staff, but this is extremely important because it is the business card, because it is the face of any company to the customer. Any company is the same. Let's think about Bank of Italy, Banca d'Italia. The receptionist at Banca d'Italia looks like a general because it makes you feel like a sacred place you entered. It makes you understand that you are an important customer, that the place is important, etc., etc. So the management of the customer relationship is essential. First, to reassure the customer, because the customer understands that on the other side, someone knows, but that person needs to constantly assess their competencies, their weaknesses, and their strengths. So the person who welcomes a person, a customer, can never say, okay, I've reached my limit of training. Why? Because there's constant evolution, things change, and you need to be well prepared about where you stand to give, to offer a service and create satisfactory customer relationship. And this requires a specific skills, as well as the understanding that we are professionals in our relationship. And it's only in the context of our professional role that relationships and communication with customers are managed. And now we will see why the importance of the professional role. Role is a concept that defines our behaviors, obligations, and expectations. Now that we're holding a lecture, I'm the teacher, you're the students. We have some behaviors to take mutually. You expect things from me, and I have some obligation. I cannot read my smartphone or a paper while I'm doing training. So behaviors, obligations, and expectations. In our everyday life, we have formal and we play formal and informal roles. Formal roles are defined by institutions or companies where we work. And the behaviors that are requested are determined by the institutions or companies. So the work we do in the company is to make the dishes that we have to serve customers. Informal roles are established by the society we live in. So we can have different roles which are informal, individual. Informal roles are not officially recognized and they're attributed from the moment we are born. So we are children, we have a role of children, there are expectations, we have relationships with our household, with our family, our peers, teachers, grandparents, then we go to work and so on and so forth. And all these groups, we establish relationships, we create affection. So our personality is formed, is shaped by all this background. And we take on some characteristics, obedient, shy, etc., etc., wide range of permissible behaviors. And these are informal roles. Formal roles are officially recognized and institutionally recognized. Look here. So there's the civil protection. It's an informal role, and we wear a uniform, and our behaviors are clear, the same as the scout wearing a uniform, and there are specific behaviors to be taken. These are the formal roles. Do you have any other example of informal and formal role? Informal roles, what comes to your mind? I only see Mr. Amorino and Laura. I'm asking him. I'm sorry. I was just thinking. So, do you think about informal roles when you go home? Yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. Exactly. So if I play soccer, amateur soccer, I'm a soccer player. If I'm a professional soccer player, that is not informal. Now another focus. Every person plays different roles. And in these roles, we adopt different types of attitudes and behaviors. As a mother, I have a special attitude to my children, but I can have a different attitude to my mother, with whom I don't get along. So with my children, I'm lovable, I'm positive, I accompany them, I drive them, I welcome them. With my mother, with whom I've had several fights, I can be unpleasant, etc. So depending on our deep, profound attitude, we can change our behavior, moving from one role to the other in different places. when a person plays a role, the others expect behaviors, and the behavior I expect derive from my experience, from my prejudices, and from the commonplaces in the environment I live in. For example, I put the two roles of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. If this is my prejudice, when I meet my mother-in-law for the first time, I will bring with me these expectations which could bias, prejudice my relationship with her. So we carry prejudices, expectations, which influence my behavior to a certain person. So my question is, do we behave in the same way in all the various roles we play? The answer is simple. No, we don't behave in the same way, because at work we behave in one way, at home in a different way. And this also influences our communication. Because if I expect from a certain role that it is a bearer of certain values, I will have a certain type of communication with this person. For example, if Robin is always wrong, of course it is, but if a businessman robs, put in and with the bankruptcy of the company, his employees are all fired. This is very wrong. And if it's a coach misbehaving with the children, the expectations are higher, and so the situation is even more wrong. So my question is this: does the impression one has of a customer influence the way one relates to the customer? What do you think? It shouldn't, but it does. And here too, this is wrong, because it's very important to play our roles in an appropriate way to the situation we find ourselves in. If I am at home, I can relate to this kid, to this guy, the way I prefer. But when I'm at work, I cannot do the same, because I'm playing my professional role. So if this guy who's a general behaves as a general at home, it's not good, because he plays roles which are not adequate to the role of father, of husband. If at home I play the psychologist, I would be a nuisance, because my family would constantly feel judged. So it's not fair. And the same goes that I shouldn't express professional opinions with at the bar with a friend who asks for my opinion on his child or her child. So do you agree that certain behaviors shouldn't be taken, and I prepared a number of questions, but there is not much interaction. So as I've explained, our role is not always functional to the setting we are. Do you agree? Yes, I agree. So if I'm a teacher, I will behave as a teacher at school, but not at home with my children. Okay, now let's move into the assessment of the formal role. So it describes the position occupied by a person within an institution, organization, company in which they work. So the person has some objectives to achieve, tasks to perform, and skills to possess. So the professional role is very strict compared to the informal roles that we play, because informally we can adopt a lot different behavior. For example, as a parent, I can slap my son when the violent behavior reaches a limit. Um, the social services jump in. So when we play a professional role, we wear uniform to be immediately identified by others. In some places, like the kitchen or the hospital, you have to wear a coat, but at the hospital, you have a lot of different colors, so you clearly recognize the roles of the various people. So the professional role is made up of, I prepared this slide with a blue square, and I say this square represents the technical skills of a person when playing a professional role. Green square, it represents relationship management and soft skills. The red one is my responsibility in my role. So technical skills, soft skills, and responsibility. So let's see what is competence. All the resources of an individual when doing a job. Some resources are personal characteristics like motivation, problem solving, etc. And then you have technical skills that you use when you do something in sports, hobby. The technical operational skills are the skills that I adopt when I do training or when I am at the workplace. So if I am an accountant, chef, and hairstylist, I learn skills. Technical operational skills are called knowledge and know-how. And these are learned during my school years or at work. Soft skills refer to our personal, social, and behavioral skills. Uh, so how we relate to others, how we manage ourselves, our emotions, how we solve problems, and we're called knowing how to be. So technical skills and soft skills. However, the soft skills transform knowledge and technical skills into behavior. Effective and efficient behavior. I can be an excellent doctor. I can have a lot of technical skills. But when I give a diagnosis to a patient, the way I do it can be wrong. Why? Because I cannot manage the relationship. Soft skills make my job an excellent job. I can be extremely knowledgeable, but if I can relate to other people and adopt an effective communication to other people, my technical skill is not good, okay? Soft skills are everything we learn from our experiences. And they teach us to relate with others, to have goodwill, to manage problems. They teach us to behave, but they're very hard to change because often we do not realize what moves our behaviors. Sometimes a person that we don't know, but we see for the first time, is unpleasant to us, okay? Why? Because maybe we related this person to another person that we had met before and that we felt and that was unpleasant to us. But if we're not aware of these threads that move us, we will not be able to change the relationship with that person. So our attitudes, which originate our behaviors, are very hard to change if we are not aware. So these are soft skills. Ability to communicate, to manage oneself under stress, work in a team, plan and manage time, manage the relationships with others, listening, empathy, flexibility, creativity, resilience. Resilience is the ability to stand the blows, to withstand the blows of we receive from life. These are soft skills. So as I was saying, it's extremely important to do the experience them in my job, to develop them. This is what I stress when I do training to young students, because these skills are not taught in any education, not even at university. So I learn them theoretically from books. But they don't teach me how to manage stress or emotions. They tell me a number of things, but they don't teach me. So teachers are not taught how to manage relationships with students. It's a trial and error thing. But what I tell the kids is that sometimes I do selection. When I do selection, do you think that technical skills are important? No, because technical skills can be learned at work. In the kitchen, you can teach, but you don't have time to teach teamwork or anger management. So school is a sort of gym where students need to learn these skills. They have to do internships as well, because that's the only moment where you are free to learn. And when you are at work, you can pay a huge price if you don't have these skills. Do you all agree with me? So on one hand, it's important that the managers create a supportive environment through adequate training, because we need to help them, train them to communicate correctly, to manage conflicts, to interact with children, with customers effectively, so as not to generate more stress. And upstream is as managers, we teach skills. We can create a solid ground that helps the employees and gives them value. Do you have doubts, concerns? Is everything clear? I think we need examples of what you mean by saying you have to learn to apply communication in our work group. So an important thing we need to reflect on is how we manage the role and how the others recognize our role. So we can have problems having a role recognized when there are conflicts, which often derive from problems in communication. In these cases, to reassert my role, there are two methods. So one method is I am in charge. You have to do as I say. So neglecting the conflict management. So the other doesn't recognize my role when I need to reassert that I'm the one in power. The other method is to manage effectively the relationship and the problem. getting the role recognized by the other based on the way I have performed it, played it. For example, teachers sometimes have their role recognized through authority. If you misbehave, you go to the headmaster. That is the primary role, resorting to power, neglecting conflict management. But if the student recognizes my role based on my authoritativeness, I don't need to resort to force because the role is recognized by the other. All clear? Here. Why can't I watch TV? Because I tell you, I am your mother. We both know who's the mother and who's the daughter, but if the mother needs to repeat it because I say so, something is not working in the management of the situation. In this case, the mother hasn't managed the conflict, hasn't solved it, but she only attributed to herself the role of mother. So when we are in a situation of conflict, we need all our good weapons to manage that conflict, and the good weapons come from training on relationship management, problem management, conflict management. Because we go by trial and error, and sometimes this is not effective to solve those situations. So doing practice by trial and error is very burdensome. I put a lot of slides in here. Professional role conflicts may depend on organizational problems, on a little clarity between roles and tasks. When people say, I didn't know I had to do this is not my role, I don't have time to deal with it, it's not my responsibility. This means that in the organization, there is little clarity. Or from relational problems, differences in values and visions, discordant needs and interests, communication difficulties, different cultures. But in my role, I never have to bring my personal opinions and my personal view. I have to stick to my role that gives me jobs, tasks, purposes. When in hotel management schools, we talk about special customers. Some students react with contempt when hearing about vegans or vegetarians. That is their personal opinion, which shouldn't interfere with their professional role. They have to keep it. When they're out, they can say whatever they like. When they are at work, it is not possible. It's very clear. We have to learn to separate our personal life from our role, professional role, but requires a certain behavior. But in the professional role, there's little interest in our personal opinions. It's hard to digest, but that's how it is. Let me give you an example that doesn't have much to do with our with your work, with your job. Let's think about institutions, maybe a regional department with an employee then has to work on an interreg project. with specific indications from the council or from a specific political group. If the employee has an opposite opinion to the counselor, I cannot say it because in my professional role, I have to pursue the objectives set by the institutions, even if I don't agree. I have to keep those things outside of my profession. Clear? So personal attitude should be kept under control. And these conflicts deriving from organizational problems as well as relational problems are what generate work-related stress. If I don't know what are my tasks, if we overlap, if we do the same confusedly, this is generates stress at work. All clear? Okay. One more thing concerning communication that you asked me. I prepared a part on communication, but we don't have long. I wanted to talk about celiac disease and so on and so forth. So communication, these are the key elements of communication. Active listening. What is active listening? So what do I mean by active listening? Can someone help me? So I listen and I understand. That's correct. But what do I have to do to listen? I have to keep quiet. Does this happen? Not always. When someone starts telling you something, what do you tend to do? You say, ah, me too. So active listening is the ability to pay full attention to what is told without putting first my thoughts, my needs. Being as a blank canvas. In this case, I can ask questions. And maybe giving feedback. Is this what you said? Did I get it right? So asking and giving feedback to improve the service. So managing problems, avoiding escalation. So we witness an escalation often when we go to the post office, when people get upset with the clerk. And people working at the post office attend courses to manage escalation. The same goes for the ER. There are many conflicts in the ER because it's harder to manage that type of relationship, but you need training, you need communication tools, etc. And train. Because we used to think that communication was easy, but communication follows the rules that have been studied. If we are knowledgeable, we can master the situation. So that's it from me. I have a lot more to say, as you may have seen, but that's it. What do you say, Lorena? Shall we stop here and wait for some feedback? Let's see if there are questions. I wanted to ask you, Ariella, one question to stress. Maybe you should stress, yes? You're muted now. So I wanted to ask you for an example of something that creates stress and confusion. That is the poor consistency of the customer. The customer may make personal choices, but the risk of the escalation is very high. Because the staff starts interacting aggressively. Because what matters, as I told you, is to stick to your professional role. What is wrong is to give life lessons. In our professional role, we shouldn't give life lessons to customers, even if we're not pleased with them, even if, as we said, they trigger, no, they ask for us to take a number of procedures which are quite burdensome. And then for dessert, they ask for tiramisu because they don't like panna cotta. But we need to stick to our professional role, not getting into a collision with the customer. We often ask the question, your customer asks for tiramisu. Would you give it to them? Put yourself in the place of the waiter, knowing that the customer is celiac and ate gluten-free till the time of the dessert. And when at the time of dessert, when the customer asks for a gluten-rich dessert, what would you do? Would you stick to your role or start giving suggestions? Unsolicited suggestions. Who's answering? Yeah, you're the chosen one. In my opinion, it deals with the relationship that we have with the customer. Even if I'm a cook, I work with customers. And I have a question for you. Have you ever thought when going to a bar or restaurant that some people are not cut for that job, even if they're trained? That you ever think this person is doing the wrong job? Because it really is a problem of relationship aside from other skills. If there's a relationship, I can smile and tell the customer maybe tiramisu, and we've already created a relationship, and the customer says, "Don't worry." Yeah, but it's a soft skill that you create a relationship with the customer. My training comes from the 80s. It was very strict on one hand, but it has made the customer sacred. And as Mrs. Ariella was saying, you always stick to your role, and with your skills, you always have to keep the customer sacred. That's the mission. Mr. Amorino, how often did we think when going to school that certain teachers weren't cut for their job because they couldn't manage their relationship? This is not taught. I used to work in professional training many years ago, and they were asking questions, and I see they were making applications, but they weren't fit for the job, for physical characteristics. Or a guy who wants to keep the long hair and earring. In the situation we find ourselves in now, we need labor, and many companies just um, uh, make do. Often I think that for a waiter it will be easier to do some theater acting, stage acting, because you can learn the technical skills on the job, but relational skills, not. It's like with children. Some stage acting would be useful for waiters. This idea of stage acting is wonderful for waiters because you play a role, you set aside your personality to manage effectively the role. When I learn skills, the added value is that I transfer them from one setting to the next. So stage acting is essential, and it's a tool that is used a lot in team building in companies. To facilitate. I go back to my provocation because it's true that a relationship is linked. I can tell the customer that their tiramisu is not the right sweet, but you need to learn to stop at a certain point, give the information, but accept the need or the desire of the customer. So we don't have to do live lessons, to teach lessons to our customers because they are annoying. They would feel like saying, yeah, mind your own business. If you say, no, the tiramisu is not good for you. So the answer should be that food contains gluten. Yeah, you should still say it, but when the customer asks for it, you have to give it. A couple of times it happened to me with a Muslim person who placed an order for a product that I knew contained pork, I'm not a waiter, I was at the same table. The Muslim person asked for tortellini, and I didn't tell the person that there was pork. And then a vegan person who took piadina without asking if it was made with oil or lard, and the person said, "Ah, it's tasty. Can I bring some home?" And I said, "Yes." It wasn't a health issue, but it was a personal taste. I didn't know how to behave to display them. Had I told her that, I would have created a problem. Yes, because she would have made a bad impression as a person who wasn't so interested in what she was eating. Yeah, you did it right, because since there are no health problems, nothing happens. But it always has to do with the role. In a professional role, I have to give this information when a need is told. If I'm not aware of the requirement, I cannot support the customer. But when I'm told, I have to direct, instruct the customer to the right choice. The professional waiter needs to have specific skills, and all the products that are in the room need to be known, as well as uh, the grams of a product that is an ingredient should be known by the uh, room service, by the waiting service. If you keep saying, I'll ask the kitchen, I'll ask the kitchen, um, you look unprofessional. You need to be an actor and give a comprehensive answer on the moment, always considering that you cannot hurt people, because with the allergens, many people say they cannot eat certain products, but then they eat them. The more specific thing is, I'm allergic to onion or garlic. In a kitchen, onion and garlic are essential for a menu. You need to be professional and prepared fully to relate to the customer. Yeah, this is music to my ears. The information that you give the customer will be comprehensive. I can understand that in a special moment, for a special request, the waiter says, I'll ask the cook, but I cannot ask 25 times. I would never accept it from my staff, because it means being unprepared. Yes, but it happens, it does happen. As long when I say I'm celiac, the waiter goes running. I don't know where to, but they go running, and it's not a joke. I believe you. I don't blame the waiter because it's the general management that places an unprepared waiter in the room. It's a matter of organization and management. I agree. It is part of the staff training to manage, especially in gluten-free food. But I also agree that if there's a doubt, rather than giving a random answer, you should inform because there are 160 foods that could give allergic reactions. And maybe I don't know them all. I don't know the kitchen management. And rather than putting a personal risk, stopping and saying, I'll ask. In my opinion, is a good practice. I wouldn't exclude it a priori. You need to train your staff. But having a doubt should be acceptable. Maybe a technique could be it's not in the recipe, but I'll check that there were not contaminations because maybe it's not gluten, but another allergen that is less frequent. So one says in the recipe it's not there. It's not in the recipe, but I'll inform the kitchen. Okay. Good. We end here. We finish here. Yes. We'll be back tomorrow with Chef Margherita Missana. It will be a practical and demo cooking lesson. We will have two recipes which will be made with the cooking lab of Civiform from Cividale del Friuli. We will have a fresh pasta, filled fresh pasta, gluten-free with herbs, and another preparation, dessert, finity cake, good for everyone, for a large part of people with specific requirements. So today we had theory, but tomorrow we will back to the stoves, the cutting boards and the cooking ingredients. Tomorrow it will be easier to attend with your classrooms. If you're interested and you want to connect with your students, it will be easier to follow. We will meet at 2 p.m. tomorrow, live. You received the link. I'll send it again tomorrow. Elena will be our interpreter again. Last month I forgot to thank her. Today I'm doing it expressly. If you have no additional questions or comments, I'll see you tomorrow. So I would like to thank Jessica and Ariella for this lesson. We had a lot of food for thought. The last part of the presentation was a bit provocative, but it was very interesting, food for thought. So we will keep in touch. and we will learn more about this aspect too. Thank you very much. Bye. See you soon.